I'm completely stitched up, totally.
Yes, exactly. And I'm glad that I'm not being stitched up at this moment. We've got a team bus waiting to take us to Glasgow to do this show now.
Goodness me.
Well, slightly dangerous pick-up that for me. Didn't hurt you too much, I hope?
No, it didn't.
Good. Well, a fitting welcome for you, not least from your family front row, your wife Diane, your mother Isabel, your father Clifford, and your brothers Scott and Ewan. Your eldest brother Graham now lives in Australia with his wife Jackie, but there are two little ones closer to home waiting to tackle you. Here they come with their mother Diane's sister Caroline, Oscar and Bertie.
Look at these ones. Hiya. How you doing? Great.
Well, they picked up a nice bit of speed there. And you've picked up more than 60 caps for Scotland, 20 as captain, a personal tally of more than 700 points, and honours at every level with action like this.
Hastings is through. Hastings will make it. A great try for the fullback. Pretty good crack. It is a superb kick. That's one of the great penalty goal kicks of all time, surely. He's given it a great lick. He's done it once more. And a wonderful moment, an emotional moment for the Scottish captain. What a player, what a contribution. What a captain.
Well, that was hot stuff. And earlier this year, there were emotional scenes after your final international appearance. It came in a quarter-final clash in the Rugby Union World Cup in South Africa. Now, to be able to celebrate after defeat shows how well you're regarded, as indeed you respect the winners of that match, the mighty New Zealand All Blacks. Now, there's no doubting your wealth of experience, so I have to ask you this. Is there any way of describing what it is like to have 20 stone of Jonah Lomu coming at you?
It's not a pleasant sight, I have to say. It's not a pleasant effort trying to tackle him, and I didn't succeed. And I know there's one or two players in the England camp that didn't succeed as well, but we all share a quiet beer in lighter moments, and I'm delighted to say that I wasn't the only guy to have failed to tackle him.
And exchange a few scars as well, I would imagine. Well, he's been charging around the continent with the rest of the All Blacks, who, with your pal, skipper Sean Fitzpatrick, send this message.
Well, hi, Gavin. Sorry we can't be with you tonight. I hope you're having a fantastic night. It's well deserved. On behalf of all the All Blacks and probably all of New Zealanders, we'd like to wish you the best of luck tonight and congratulate you on a fantastic career. From the time back in '87 when you played for University in Auckland, and those memorable days when we won the Gallagher Shield, fantastic times, and the countless occasions that we've played against each other, you've been a fantastic advocate for the game. And from the All Blacks, best luck.
Oh, yeah.
Now, in an international career spanning nearly a decade, there were many highs and a few lows, such as the Calcutta Cup clash against England in 1994. You just lost by the slimmest margin, 15 points to 14. In the post-match interview, you were not surprisingly overcome by emotion.
and your postman was overcome with extra work.
The man who interviewed you, grandstand presenter Dougie Donnelly.
Stop again. Good to see you.
Dougie, tell us about that day.
Well, I think that day, Michael, was a day when Gavin displayed the emotion that everyone in Scotland was feeling, but it's certainly an interview that I don't think either of us will ever forget. But as always, there's an amusing postscript to it, isn't there? Because I think I went off to a snooker tournament, and I phoned Gavin, I think, the Tuesday afterwards, and I said, how's it been since, after the dust had settled? And he said, it's been great, I've had so many letters, all supportive, all sympathetic, but the best was from Linda, my wife, who obviously knows Gavin. I said, what was she saying? He said, I said, dear Gavin, sorry I made you burst into tears. Now you know how I feel.
Tender moment. Thank you, Dougie.
Thanks, Dougie. Thanks very much.
Now, someone who played against you in that match has, like you, just ended a glittering international career at the World Cup in South Africa. He's England's highest ever point scorer, Rob Andrew.
Fantastic. For the last few days. How are you?
Yeah, good to see you.
Thanks very much for coming.
No, it's all, mate.
Christmas surprise.
Rob, what do you... Private moment there. Yes, we heard that one. Thanks. What are your thoughts on the big man?
Well, I've got my checkbook to see if he'll come and play for Newcastle, but...
I'll go. Where do I sign?
Well, we started a long time ago, back in 1984, for Cambridge. Gavin came down, and we wouldn't let him kick in those days because he couldn't hit a barn door from 10 yards in 1984. So I did the kicking, but things moved on a little bit, and 86, I think he kicked 8 out of 8 against England at Murrayfield, and we've had some great encounters, both against each other and playing together with the Lions in 89, and then Gavin leading the Lions in 93, which was a wonderful occasion for all of us. Unfortunately, we didn't come back with beating the New Zealanders, but it was a wonderful trip, and Gavin had the honour of leading the Lions, led us all fantastically, and he's done so much for rugby in Scotland and around the world, and as Sean Fitzpatrick said there, he's been a fantastic ambassador for the game.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Rob. Thanks.
Now, you make your debut for Scotland against France in January 1986 with your brother Scott. You're the first brothers this century to make simultaneous first appearances for your country.
But it wasn't exactly a dream start, eh, Gav?
He coached you at school, fellow international John Rutherford. So, John, this was a dodgy debut, was it?
Well, I mean, I go back even further. I was Gavin's PE teacher, and even then he wasn't lacking confidence because I was playing for Scotland at the time, and I'd be out practising a lot in the pitches, and Gavin would always come over and give me some advice. But even when we carry on to the game you're on about, France is traditionally the hardest game of the season, and all the seasoned players were sitting in the dressing room pretty nervous, and I turned around and Gavin and Scott have thrown the ball up there and catched it behind their back, but you could see the reason for his confidence because he went on to score 6 penalties, 18 points, we won the game, and he didn't turn out a bad player, did he?
No.
Thanks very much.
So your first-class career was off and running, and Isabel, as mother and #1 fan, you were kept pretty busy.
Yes, we've had a fantastic time with our boys, and if anybody comes into my kitchen, they can actually see the number of press cuttings that I've got all over the place. We've really had a wonderful time. We've been all over the world, and I think he's fantastic.
Well, let's get back to some more history. Andrew Gavin Hastings, this is your life. You're born on January the 3rd, 1962, at Queen Mary Maternity Home in Edinburgh, a healthy 8 pounds 9 ounces, and the second son of chartered accountant Clifford and Isabel. You were to have been named Gavin Andrew, but these were reversed to avoid your initials earning you the nickname Gaga. which I wouldn't dream of saying. In fact, Scottish rugby is in your blood. Your father played for Watsonians, London Scottish, and Edinburgh. But Clifford, your career had run its course by the time Gavin was born.
Yes, indeed. I'd finished playing by then, but at the time that Gavin was born, I wasn't able to take Isabel to the hospital. I had my leg in plaster at that stage and couldn't drive a car. And we had to ask one of the neighbours to take her to the hospital to have him.
All in the name of rugby.
Absolutely.
Well, you continue another family tradition and you go to George Watson's College in Edinburgh. You become... Oh, there you are, why not? You become a regular at the Watsonians club ground, often practising into the dark. School pals, however, recall another interest.
Yes, Gavin, and it wasn't in the timetable.
To tell all, Robin Carmichael and Alan Williams. Well, come into the school hall and give us your report.
Well, it was a report that first set the alarm bells ringing. Up until about the age of 13, Gavin was really quite good at school, but that coincided with the arrival of girls at Watson's and the school becoming co-educational. There was a lot of distraction and the concentration levels dipped a bit. And funnily enough, the end-of-term reports from the girls were very similar to those of the teachers, that Gavin tries very hard but could do better.
You're great fun to be with then, and as I say, you're still great fun from me now.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Not only was there a bit of a sidestep with your studies, but also a major switch on the pitch. You're injured before a school match, and you feel you can't take your regular position at stand-off.
And I made a move that changed your life.
Your first 15 coach, former international Donald Scott.
Unbelievable.
Donald, what was this momentous move?
Well, Michael, at the time it didn't appear to be all that momentous a move because, anyway, Gavin was playing fly half at that time and he was showing a lot of promise, but I felt he had the physique and the build to become a good full-back. He was very steady, rock steady under a high ball. He was a prodigious kicker of the rugby ball, and to see him running out of defence at the opposition was quite a sight. But not only was he a good player, he was a great leader. Behind this exterior, he may look a little bit laid back, but he likes to win, and he makes his team work hard to win too. It's been a great pleasure to all of us at Watson's College to see his achievements, and not only that, to watch the modest way in which he's conducted himself. Gavin?
Thanks, Tom. Thank you very much.
Apart from rugby and good company, you've also enjoyed another lifelong passion, golf. These days you play off a handicap of 6, and your fame means you play alongside your golfing heroes. We catch up with two of them now, Ryder Cup victors and Europe's top players, local heroes Colin Montgomery and Sam Torrance.
Hi Gavin, Monty here. Another windswept St Andrews day. Hope you're having a great night. And I feel, as many do, that you've not only been a great ambassador for Scottish sport, but also for rugby union, your own sport. Have a great evening, and I'd love to see you soon.
Hi Gavin, sorry I can't be there tonight. This is a wonderful honour for you. You've done many wonderful things in your sport. It's been a pleasure to know you for all these years, and I look forward to the next time we drop.
Gavin, there's another player you admire very much, but you've yet to meet, isn't there?
There is, yes.
Yes? He is?
Greg Norman?
Greg Norman, yes. Well, well, the Great White Shark has a message for you. World number 1, Greg Norman.
Hi, Gavin. I want to congratulate you on This Is Your Life. I've heard through many a report that you think yourself a pretty good player. Now, I think I used to be a pretty good rugby player, so maybe you could give me some handicap with rugby, and maybe I can give you a handicap of golf, and we can go out there and play a little one-on-one. But congratulations on tonight, and congratulations on your career as all you've done for rugby. I know you've been a very, very proud supporter of rugby and what you've done for Scotland. And from my point of view, I hope one day I do get a chance to play with you, and have a great evening.
Thank you, Greg. Ewan, despite all this backslapping, there's no chance of your big brother getting a big head, is there?
Well, that's right. You know, we always told him as a family that he couldn't be big-headed. And a good example of that was after the 1989 Lions tour to Australia, Gavin got presented with a grog, which is a 12-inch high caricature statuette that was made of him. And this sat gathering dust in the house for about 3 years, until one day I decided to take it into the back garden. And it's been sitting there in the middle of the border like a gnome, scaring off the birds ever since.
Now, Gavin, you're one of an elite band of Scottish rugby stars to have been awarded the OBE for services to the sport. You joined their ranks in 1994.
Gav, I've got a game in Mull this weekend. Is there any chance you can join us?
Fellow OBE and former Scotland and Lions skipper Finlay Calder. Hi, Finlay. Sounded like a leading question, that.
Yes, it was, I think, a question that Gavin could have well done without. The situation was, if you remember, Mull Rugby Club had just built a clubhouse, and they'd asked me some months earlier to take a side across, and these things got kind of put to the bottom of the pile. And on the Monday before we're due to go, I phoned Gav and I said, Gav, 3-line whip, I've got to take an international team to Mull on Saturday. Can you make it? And his response was, I'll always remember, he says, Finn, I'm speaking in the Kyle of Falkirk that night. If you can get me a flight from Tobermory, I'll play in Mull for you. And so, and sure enough, true to his word, and despite all the tapes that you've seen and the games that you've seen, my abiding memory of Gavin is standing in the rain at Mull, rain stotting off the pitch, stotting off everybody else, mud up to our axles, and he's standing shaking his head at me. And that, for me, sums up the man. He didn't let anybody down. He's never let anybody down in his life. He's been an outstanding credit to Scotland. He's a sportsman and he's a true gentleman.
If you think that was bad, playing the rugby in Mull, the flight up to Kyle of Falkirk, I mean, Diane came up with me that day, and we had about a 40-minute flight over Ardnamurchan Peninsula. It was absolutely wonderful. I thought it was fantastic. I was in the front of the plane. Diane was in the back with the pilot's wife, and I think the two of them were just about sick the whole way there. But it was a great weekend, and I'll always go anywhere for this man as well. Thanks
Cheers,
very much.
Cheers.
You remember that, didn't you?
Well, back to the story, there's still the business of getting educated. Your studies take you from George Watson's to Paisley College of Technology to read land economics. After gaining your degree from Paisley, you head for Magdalen College in Cambridge, and you end up as skipper of the Light Blues.
But on that particular occasion, your team talk left the lads slightly bemused.
Cambridge coach Tony Rogers. Tony, there was a communication problem, was there?
Yes, there was slightly, Michael. When Gavin was captain, it's a tradition of the varsity match captains at Twickenham to give us a rousing do-or-die speech just before going out on the pitch. And on this occasion, Gavin sat all the team members down in the corner, and much to their amazement, he started singing Flower of Scotland. Now, that's okay if you're Scottish, and it certainly stirs the Scottish blood. But on that occasion, there were 13 Englishmen and 1 Nigerian who weren't quite as well stirred as they should be. And unfortunately went on and just lost the game. But Gavin's parents never lost faith in you. I remember that, well, I think we asked Clifford sometime at Cambridge whether there was any more at home like you who could play rugby who wished to come to Cambridge. And Clifford responded with a twinkle in his eye, "Och no, Gavin, you're the intellectual of the family."
Sorry, Scott.
I'm sorry, Scott, yes.
It's great to see you, Mr.
Scott, I don't know if you are the intellectual of the family, but of course you've not done badly. Not only did you share your international debuts, but also Lions glory and your 50th caps. And you've been on the receiving end of quite a lot of Gavin's singing, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. You mentioned his initials earlier on, AGH. Well, occasionally Andrew comes out after about 10 pints of beer, and he likes the odd slippery nipple on a Saturday night.
Could you explain?
A slippery nipple. I hasten to add that it's actually Bailey's Irish Cream and Sambuca with a wee coffee bean
But I know after a few of those, he likes to get in the singing mood. So I think, Gavin, I think you should take us away on your favourite song, Running Bear.
I don't think we'll bother.
Yes. On the banks of the river.
Running Bear. I'm very nervous.
Was that it?
Well, Scott normally joins in afterwards, and I run out the room and he carries on.
I think the All Blacks will be grateful for that one. Anyway, a useful weapon against an opponent, and you've faced a few all over the world. You've turned out for internationals and 7 and 10-a-side games in New Zealand, Australia, Hong Kong, even Monte Carlo.
And on one trip, Gavin, you even missed the flight home.
Former Scotland international John Jeffrey.
You're not going to tell that story now.
John, you're like twins.
Yes, we're the same tailor.
So what happened?
Well, I better apologise to Dan. This is before he met you, by the way, Dan. Scotland B had been playing Ireland B out in Limerick. And after the game, Gavin was a perfect gentleman. His young girl needed to be taken home. So I escorted her home. Unfortunately, she lives 60 miles south of Limerick. And the flight was leaving at 6 the next morning. And Gavin didn't quite get back in time for it. But that wouldn't normally be too bad if you missed the flight home. The only trouble was they were picking the Scotland team on the Sunday morning at Murrayfield at a training session. And because Gavin wasn't there, he wasn't picked. But having said that, that was one of his better decisions because I was picked for that game. And we got beat by 40 points by Australia.
Thank you, Gavin. 1990 was a good year for you. Grand Slam success coincides with meeting Diane through your work as a surveyor. If Five Nations triumph was a high, there was more to come, as in 1993, you're made captain of the national side. Your first game in charge is against Ireland, and Diane, he had another match on his mind.
Yes, well, unknown to me, 20 minutes before full time when Scotland were winning quite comfortably, Gavin suddenly decided that he was going to ask me to marry him that night. So thankfully Scotland did win that game because I hate to think what would have happened if we'd lost.
Well, I wouldn't be able to say that you married on September the 3rd, 1993 at Greenbank Church in Edinburgh.
It's amazing you made it. Yes, especially considering the number of stag parties you had, Gav.
They should know your best man, David Buchanan, and just flown in from Madagascar, Mark Thomas.
How are you, dude? Nice to see you.
See you, man. Very well.
A little surprise for you.
Now, you three shared a house, so you know about celebrations. How many stag parties were there?
Well, we had quite a few, and the main one was we went to Stockholm, to Sweden, to play in the Stockholm Tens. And we had this fantastic strip, which says Stockholm Tens 93 Gavin Hastings Memorial Stag Tour. And the main objective was basically to drink Sweden dry, and Gav led by example. And we had, like on many tours, a lot of serious games. Unfortunately, one of them was we weren't allowed to say Gavin.
And there was a serious fine if we did use that name. I think, in fact, it was about 50 quid. And I remember playing in one game where Gav made a break, and he had one man to beat. Me sensing history and glory, about to slip into my Linford Christie stride, called Gav, Gav, Gav! Anyway, I was fined heavily and had to drink most of it, but it was a fantastic weekend, shared amongst great friends and a tremendous man. I have no regrets.
Thank you.
Thanks. Nice to see you, dude.
See you later.
Are you going to take that? You can take that.
Well, it's your ability to be unflappable under pressure that brings you the captaincy of the British Lions in 1993. You play alongside many of those gathered here tonight, including your good friend, England prop forward Jason Leonard. You also combine good causes with a spot of fresh air. Earlier this year, you led the biggest ever parade of pipes and drums through the heart of Edinburgh in aid of Marie Curie cancer care. But of course, it is on the rugby field that you've enjoyed your greatest moments. None greater than in February this year when you led Scotland to their first victory over France in Paris for 26 years, helped by this try.
Townsend half through again. Gavin Hastings has burst away and he's going to score between the posts. An incredible try.
Well, that tied the scores, and then you converted for a memorable win. That must have been one of your happiest moments.
Anyone that was there and either on the field or supporting will remember it for a long, long time.
Excellent. And you've always enjoyed a lot of help and support.
That's right.
I'm glad my advice was useful.
Completing a Hastings family lineup, flown in from his home in Australia with his wife Jackie, your eldest brother Graham.
All righty. Lovely to see you. Good to see you. Tremendous. When did you get in?
Graham, what was your advice to Gavin?
Well, being the oldest Hastings boy, there was a bit of pressure in life, and hopefully I showed the way by playing international schoolboy rugby, and we practiced kicking all the time. I remember one time you came from the garden and said, "Geez, I kicked the ball the length of the garden." And I said, "Well, what foot did you do it with?" And he said, "My right foot." I said, "Well, go out there and come back when you've done it with your left." So, but just to finish, we've had a super time watching Gavin and Scott's career and travelling around the world, and he's been a credit to his country and a credit to the game in general.
Thank you very much.
Well, Hastings, this is your life.
Thank you very much.